everybody, and Happy New Year! Welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and right over there is Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year.
It's been too long, Nikki Kinzer.
Well, you know, it has, but gosh, my break went fast. It really did. It was crazy fast.
Truly fast. Did you tell me what you did? Tell me everything.
Oh, gosh.
Start at the beginning and do it in real time.
I'm not going to do that. That would bore our poor listeners. No, it was actually pretty low key. I stayed in town. We had, little family gatherings here and there and everything. And we had some friends come and stay with us over New Year's. And but it really just went by fast. Vacation always does.
Oh, truly. Truly.
Did you have a good holiday?
Oh, I did. My in-laws came into town and stayed with us for a couple of weeks. It was wonderful. It was delightful. They're very good people and did much to warm the house. And the kids obviously love hanging around with Grandma and Grandpa. We went up to Mount Hood, did some tubing. It was good fun. Tried to take advantage of some of the crazy snow that we got sort of late in the break. And then of course, as we record this, all the kids are off because of icy roads here. So an extension of our holiday.
That's right.
This week. So we're kicking off a great series. Can I say I'm so excited about this series?
I am too. I think this is a great time of year to do it.
Truly.
January is a great time.
Truly,
I'm excited about this too.
We're talking all about self-care and ADHD. Before we dig right into that, don't forget, here's how you find out all about us. Head over to takecontroladhd.com. You can join the mailing list right up there, so you'll get an update whenever a new show comes out straight to your email. You can also find us on iTunes, and you know what? We haven't asked for this in a long time, but we do appreciate if you are an iTunes listener, an iTunes subscriber, head into your iTunes account, go into our show page, and leave us a review. Those kind reviews, those 5-star reviews, they help other people discover the show. So if you've ever gotten anything out of this show, if you've ever learned a tool or found a resource that has helped you, we would appreciate your help in return. Leave us that nice review and help other people discover the show in iTunes. It is still the absolute biggest source of people finding this show is through iTunes. So we'd appreciate your help there. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, engage in the conversation there at Take Control ADHD, and call us, leave us a voicemail at 503-664-4ADD and get your voice on this show. We would love to hear you. That's
that exciting.
It is very exciting. So we're kicking off the new year with self-care. What does that mean?
That's right. Well, for the next several weeks, we're going to cover a lot of different subjects. So it's not just like, what is self-care? It's a great question. What does that mean? So there's going to be a lot of different things that we're going to do and talk about. And really, in essence, what happens is when you take good care of yourself, you're really taking care of your ADHD. And that is the intention of this series, is to help manage your ADHD to the best that you can, which means taking care of yourself. And something that we're going to do new this year, which is kind of exciting, is we're going to have a few guests come and join us to talk about some of these subjects and share their expertise, which is going to be fun.
Oh,
so
yes.
You are going to hear some other voices other than just Pete and I. But we're going to cover exercise, medication, nutrition, mindfulness, sleep. And then we're going to end the series with how to build habits, because I think it's really important that we touch upon, not only these subjects of how to take care of ourselves, but how do we build them into habits so that we continue doing them throughout throughout our lifetime, not just the year, because this is not necessarily about New Year's resolutions. This is really overall, taking care of yourself and for the long term.
Yeah. And that's the one I think that's important, because we've talked about building habits on this show a lot, right? We've talked about building habits in terms of your sort of living an organized lifestyle. We've talked about building habits in terms of, technology, but building habits around self-care, it's different because of the impact that these habits have on your physiology and your psychology and and the way you relate with the world. They're deceivingly important. And so I'm really excited that we're going to be digging into this and that we're having some of the experts that we are on the show. It's going to be great.
Yes, absolutely. So we have to begin somewhere, right? So that's what this conversation is today, is about where to begin, and how to make this important to you. Like what really does make self-care matter to you. And I think it's important that we kind of take a step back and kind of do some reflection. I'm kind of big on reflection these days, and spending the time, to think about that vision that you want for yourself.
It's because we're getting older. You know that, right?
Yeah. Well, you can't just jump into things, because if you just jump in, I find that that's usually, it doesn't work. It doesn't always succeed. So we want success here.
That's right.
And I want to remind people that last year we did talk a lot about creating a vision and how to get started and making time for it. So I highly recommend that you listen to those episodes along with these episodes ahead, because, if you are having difficulty on trying to figure out what that vision is, that those episodes might help you. And I bring that up with, are you having difficulty trying to figure out what that vision is for yourself? Because I actually got an email over the break from somebody who said, the problem that I have is just even having a vision. I absolutely have no clue where I would like to be in 6 months or next year, much less later. And so, and he asks, can you give me some sort of pointer on where I can get started, or vision, or how to basically get started on a vision for himself. And I'm not going to address that here today, but I am going to address this question specifically in my blog. So I definitely invite everybody to come visit the Taking Control, the ADHD blog this week, because if this does apply to you, where you're a little lost on what that vision looks like, I'm going to have some ideas for you.
Well, that's another deceiving one too. Like you think you're on a path, and then when you stop and really reflect on it, you realize that path doesn't really give you much joy.
Well, or you just don't know where it is. Like, you don't even know what that path is.
Right.
Like, what do I want? So yeah, definitely. But today I want to focus back on, assuming that your vision is about self-care and some of these specific things that we're going to be talking about. So, you asked the question what it means. And I think that, what I say that good self-care means that you're taking care of your ADHD. And what I have found with clients who are really making an effort and an intention to exercise, eat healthy, meditate, all of these things that we're going to be talking about, what happens is they end up having better focus at work, at home. They seem to be happier. They have stronger self-esteem. They're more positive. The stress and anxiety levels are lowered. And they just feel a little bit more in control of their emotions and their thoughts. Now, if you think about, if you're not taking good care of yourself, what happens, right? The ADHD is going to be a lot more prevalent in your life. And the opposite things are going to occur. You're going to feel more scattered. You're going to be much more easily distracted, overwhelmed, stressed, unorganized, right?
Sure,
is a big thing. And you're going to feel like a lot less control. So we know it's really an essential piece of taking care of your ADHD is to take care of yourself. And then, you ask, or I ask myself, what is self-care? And a while back, I wrote a blog post about a friend of mine. I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast or not, but when I had asked her about how she got it, or how she continues her exercise as a habit, one of the things that she said was, I make myself a priority. I just always make it a priority. And I think that that's kind of the mind frame that you have to start to kind of get into when you start thinking about how are you going to take care of yourself. Now you have to make it a priority.
That is a great thing to just sort of make an axiom, right? I mean, we talk about, it's easy to talk about in terms of finance. When you get paid, the basic rule of thumb here is pay yourself first, right? Put right. money in savings or retirement first, and then pay everything else. And that's something that I think we forget to do for our bodies and our minds. We don't pay ourselves first. We don't make ourselves a priority. I think if we keep that pay yourself first mentality, really sort of in our back pocket, that means we may start making those decisions to, I'm going to go for my morning walk very first thing. Before anybody else gets a hold of my time, I'm going to take my time and take care of my body. I'm going to take my 10 minutes and meditate a little bit. I'm going to go to bed a little bit early. I mean, those are the things that pay yourself first means when it comes to self-care, right?
Absolutely. And I like how you're saying you're kind of breaking big things into small things, right? Like what, you're just going to bed a little bit earlier, or you're doing your walk in the morning. I mean, you're setting yourself up for success, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do all of these things all the time, which essentially, or eventually, I should say, you would like to be that way. Mm-hmm. But when we talk about habits, we'll talk about how you need to, start small. And that's what you're saying. And I like that, because I think it's important that people remember that. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Well, I think it does. And I think for me, it comes down to this, why self-care is so deceiving. And I want you to reflect on this in your work with your clients, because my personal experience is I don't easily recognize when I am not taking care of myself. And it's usually because I have let the question of what I should be doing be influenced by so many external forces. Like, well, I know I probably should be going on a walk right now, or a run right now, but that's a half hour that I could be doing something for a client or billable or something that I've been asked to do by somebody else. And that becomes like that cascading failure in terms of taking care of myself. It's that thing that I always do instead of taking care of myself. And then I just forget what feeling good feels like.
Yeah. Well, and I think that what you're saying is that it never really feels like it's as important as something else, right? Yeah. Like it always feels like something else should take its place. Like, okay, well, I don't have to do my walk this morning because I really need to get back to these emails that have been sitting in my inbox, you know, or whatever. And so, you kind of quit paying attention to the self-care part because everything else seems more important. But I think that that's where you have to kind of go back and say, okay, but wait, if I'm making myself a priority, then why is that not as important?
Yes. Well, yes, but that's what I mean. Like it's when you forget what feeling good feels like, and for me, that's the what it all comes down to. When I stop running after I have been running, I still have that vision of myself as somebody who can run.
Right.
I'm a person who's met that goal. I've learned how to run and to run at some, modest distances without killing myself. And so in my head, like I'm that guy. And so maybe I don't need to go for a run today. I forget that it's hard, and it's so much easier to sit down and look at those emails or respond to these messages on Facebook or to do whatever it is that's on my task list, because I haven't made myself, like I haven't created. And that's why I'm so excited about the habits conversations we're going to have after all these experts, because I haven't really thoroughly engaged the habit of making myself a priority.
Right.
I mean, is that something that you see? Is that how it manifests for others?
Well, yes. I mean, I think that, or you see it where they start to do it for a while, right? Mm-hmm. And they're consistent for like a month or so, and then a couple of days go by and it gets kind of lost, and then the momentum is lost.
Yeah.
So that's pretty common. But it's interesting that you said you kind of forget what it feels like to feel good. And so my question back would be, how do you remember that then? When is the shift for you, or what does it look like for you when you've kind of had enough, right? Because we all get to that point where, okay, I've had enough because I know I'm not feeling well. And I've got to get back into the running, or I've got to get back into eating well. So maybe that means I meal plan this week or whatever it is. But I think that would be the question I would have for people who are really honestly kind of forgetting what it feels like to feel good. It's like, okay, then we've got to remind ourselves, because we got to get back to that place.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of things too, I mean, just real quick, is that, it's those limiting beliefs that get in the way, because people will say, well, I just can't follow through more than a month, or I'll try to do this, but it probably won't succeed because all the other times I've failed, or I've never, continued to do this or whatever. So a lot of it too, I think, is looking at what your belief system is, and how are the current beliefs that you have serving you? And if they're not serving you, then what's a new belief going forward? It's a new year. It's a new day. You have an opportunity here. Every day gives you a new opportunity to do something different. And so we have to kind of look at that too. It's like, what am I really holding on to here that's getting in my way?
Yeah, the excuses are just rich. For me, the biggest challenge, and this is what I've been facing, and why my sort of physical health has been kind of intermittent this season, is because I was running so well this summer. Every day I was out doing something outside, and then the weather changed. And how easy is it to say, "Oh, it's cold. I don't have the right pants.
Right.
I don't have the right gloves." The gym is so boring, which it is. I mean, it is. It's horrible. I mean, I hate going to the gym, but especially, once I figured out how to run. And so, like, to let those excuses in the way and let those excuses, become the priority over my own health, that's the challenge. And so, that's certainly what you're describing is what I'm very much trying to do this new year, is leverage the change, leverage the fact that the guests have left the house, leverage the fact that in fact, I can put myself before others in this regard, because I know that when I am healthy and happy and well fed and well slept, I am better for others in my life.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and something I just have to say when you're talking about running, and I'm not a runner, so I'm not the one that should be talking about this, but I have noticed there was a day during my break that I'd gone to the grocery store, and it's pouring down rain, and it was kind of early in the morning, and I probably passed, I would say probably 4 or 5 people that were running in the rain. In the pouring down rain. Yeah. And I did think to myself, I'm wondering who these people are. Like, what, and then I admire them, because I'm like, who are these people that it doesn't matter what the condition is, like the weather condition, like they're out there running regardless. And it's like, it would be interesting to like interview them. Yeah. Find out like what question, makes you tick.
Who do you think you are making us look bad?
Yeah, but it's like, gosh, where is the determination? Where is your perseverance? It's like, I want to know more about these people. So if somebody is out there that's listening, who does that, I want to talk to you, because seriously, I'm really curious about how that works, because I would love that. And wouldn't you? I mean, it would be a great thing.
And I feel like I've had that. If I'm already running and it starts raining, I'm in good shape. But where I fall short is the cold. The cold is I hate the cold. I hate skiing. I hate, it's just, I'm not a fan of it. And so like I can actually run through, and I always feel better after I come home from a nice run where it started raining. I feel like I accomplished something in spite of nature trying to be a bit of an adversary to me. Right? There's that feeling. I just won, a little bit. Right. I won. But the cold wins more often than not.
I know. Well, I support you, Pete.
Thank you.
You get out there and run, no matter what.
The other thing that I think we've talked about before, and you should reflect on, is this idea of how hard it is to get over the shame that we pile on ourselves.
Oh, yes. I mean, especially, you have one bad day and you call the whole thing off. I mean, it's, and this is so common. I see, because it's the mentality a lot of times with ADHD is it's a black or white thing. It's not, there's nothing gray. And so you're all in or you're nothing, And so, yes, I think it's being aware of that shame that you might be feeling, and being kinder to yourself, being, treating yourself the same way that you would treat somebody else. And what I really like is that, every day, every single morning, we have an opportunity to do something different. So who cares about what you did yesterday, and just focus, in the moment right now. What are you going to do today? You get a second chance. And so I that's my suggestion, is hold on to that and not worry about, that bad day that you had yesterday.
Truly. All right. So how do you encourage people to like
reflect.
We said, to leverage the time of year, right? I mean, this idea of just saying go reflect is one thing, but how do you actually give some guidance on what it means to have a sound and effective reflection?
Well, I've got some questions that I'm going to go over in the podcast with you today and give you a little bit of an explanation of what these questions mean. But I will also put these on the blog as well, so somebody who's more visual can also see these written out, so they can kind of go through it on their own. So that's where I'm going to start.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So the first question I have is, what does self-care really mean to you? And I ask this question first because it really can mean different things. Now, we are going to have experts talking about medication and mindfulness and nutrition and all of those things make sense, right? That's a part of the package of self-care. But it also could be, balancing your life with work life and social life. That could be self-care for you or a part of it. It could also be financially, where are you financially with your budgets? I mean, we had a whole series last year, right, about budgets and money. And maybe that's a part of your self-care. So there's a lot, or being a better parent can also be part of that too. So there's no limitation. So I just want people to really think about, what does this mean to me? Where am I, on these different parts of my life, and where do I want to see improvement? So really just taking some time to figure out what your vision is and where you want to go. Perfect. And then write these down. I think you got to take the time to think about them and then brainstorm and document what's important to you. Where are the areas that you want to focus on, and write those down so that you have them in front of you, because as we know, we can easily forget. Even with the best intentions, it's easy to forget. So we want to document. And then I would say, from a scale of 1 to 10, how well are you taking care of yourself now? I want, if I was coaching you, for example, I would want to know, like, where are you on this scale right now? Are you at a 2 or are you at an 8? And you might be at an 8 in your financial life, but you're at a 2 with balancing, your work life and your personal life. And so we want to kind of have a scale to kind of figure out where you're currently at. And then I want to know, what does a 10 look like for you? What are we aiming for? Right. So if you're at an 8, what would be a 10? If you're at a 2, what would be a 10? And really get kind of a feel of where you're at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. It's that sort of 1 degree improvement thing, and for me, I would say, what does it take for me to get from a 6 to a 7 even? What are the incremental changes that are going to kind of improve? I know I may be able to really know what a 10 looks like, but getting from here to a 10 is sometimes more of a challenge.
Well, and that kind of brings me to my next point, or my next question is, what do you need to do to improve the ranking or just get you closer to your 10? So maybe that is going from a 6 to a 7. Yeah. So we want to sit and really think and reflect, like, what do I need to do this? Do I need an accountability partner? Do I need to listen to more podcasts? Do I need to hire a coach? Do I need to go to therapy? I mean, it's like, you got to figure out, what is it that you need? What's missing that's going to just take you up a notch, which is exactly what you're saying.
Perfect.
I want to know what you're doing well. I want to know, where are you really, what's the word, Pete? What are you
succeeding? Where are you succeeding right now?
And flourishing. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Where are you just really flourishing and doing well at? And we want to build from that success. So if you, and I'll give you an example. I have a client who I was working with, and the first part that we kind of tackled was his personal life, and now we're kind of tackling his work life. Well, he was able to really get down meal planning to the point where it was becoming a habit. Like they had a system down and it was really working for them. So, how do you take that success, that meal planning success, and put it into your work life? What area, is he challenged with work, and how do we transfer that? And I know it may seem like they're two very different things, but there's always something similar that we can transfer over. So we want to know what you're doing well. We want to know what areas in your life, come easy to you. Because there are going to be some areas, like maybe you're really financial savvy, but, another exercise is just really hard to get in, so we want to kind of figure out what's easier, what's harder. Again, this is just really kind of self-awareness reflection kind of thing to kind of figure out who you are and get to know yourself a little bit better. Then I want to know what your priority is right now, because you may have a whole list of things that you want to change, but I want to know what's most important to you. What's one thing right now that if you really focused on making this better, how would it affect you in a couple of months? How could it change your life? So we got to kind of now break down the priorities. Then, now that you're focusing on one thing, we want to know how you're going to make it a priority. We're going back to making ourselves a priority. Do we need to schedule? Do we need to schedule time to exercise? Do we need to get a gym membership? Do we need to find somebody to walk with? That so we can kind of build in some accountability. What do you need to do to make this a priority for yourself? And this is also, I think, along the lines of just thinking through the details. Are you going to be working on it daily? Is it a weekly thing, a monthly thing? But setting that intention of this is what I'm doing now is huge. It can really make a difference.
Well, that's what I like so much about this idea of the intention is setting who I am, who I want to be, and the person that I am. And that's right. One of the things that's made so much of a difference in my life. It's the things that I want to do aspirationally. I have to change the way I think about myself as a person who is the guy who does those things.
Yeah, exactly. You are doing it. Yeah. Exactly. That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, it's been really important to me is that I am a guy who runs, so I got to go run now because that's who I am. I can't change who I am like that.
Well, and the second to the last question I have is, what could get in your way? Is if the weather is going to get in your way, then what do you need to do about it? Because you can't change the weather. So what happens? And I think that's really tearing down the excuses and saying, okay, either you are going to still run in, crappy weather, or you're going to the gym, or you're going to buy a treadmill and you're going to put it in the garage. And that's what you're going to do. I mean, somehow you have to find a solution. So I think, but that's empowering you to do so. So instead of just saying, well, the weather's bad, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do something different. And you have control over that. You get to decide, what that is. But the most important thing here is not just about the running, but just really knowing what is getting in your way. Absolutely. What is the roadblock, and sometimes that is not just a surface thing like the weather. It could be something a little deeper. So just going to throw that out there. Especially with nutrition and losing weight and stuff. Sometimes, if you're an emotional eater, there could be something else going on than just, simply trying to lose weight. So,
Truly.
And then lastly is how are you going to remember? Again, I think that this is such an important thing with ADHDs. You can go into your week with such a great intention of eating well and exercising and doing all of these things. But if the day gets away from you or, one thing doesn't happen the way you expect it to happen, it's so easy to forget, and not intentionally. I mean, you're not doing it on purpose. So what are the things that you need to do? What are the structures you need to put in place? And it could be an alarm. It could be an accountability person checking in with you. Whatever notes, around the house, whatever it is, it's going to remind you that this is my priority. I'm making myself a priority, and this is what I'm going to do today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. And I'm also excited. I think the last episode in our self-care series, we're going to do some technology, a tech episode, a digital episode on self-care. And I've got some tools, people. Good. I'm pretty excited, especially after the holidays. I got a new one. Ooh, I'm excited to talk about it.
Well, that's awesome. So there's lots to look forward to. So I encourage you to stick with us and share the podcast with others. If you think that this would be of value to other people, please let other people know that we're here, because we definitely want to share this knowledge and the experts that are coming in. We want people to know about them, and it's good stuff. It's really good stuff.
It is really good stuff. So we certainly appreciate everything that you people do to help spread the word. And gosh, I think that's it this time. So where do we go from here? Do you have? Can we tease a little bit about what's next immediately?
Well, yes, we can. It's not going to be an expert, but I'm going to be doing some research on exercise and the ADHD mind, and talk about some tips on getting that into your daily routine.
Excellent.
So first thing, next up is exercise.
So you got to stick through it, people. And then you'll want to go for a run. That's
well,
what I'm
you
saying.
especially.
That's because I'm a guy who runs now,
right.
apparently. Thank you, as always, Nikki Kinzer. I'm so glad that we're back past our break. I have missed this show and recording with you. I've really missed it, so I'm glad we're back.
It's fun.
Back in the saddle. And thank you, everybody. We hope you had a happy and healthy holiday season. And here's to a great, great, great 2016. Thanks, everybody. On behalf of Nikki, I'm Pete. We'll catch you next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.